Okay. You spoke about the Caribbean connection and the English players. I saw Roland Butcher this morning post a picture of both of you landing in Australia, playing for Tasmania.
Yes.
Tasmania for, was it a year? And then you went across to New Zealand for a year as well?
Yes, I played with Tasmania for 1 year. What year was that? That might have been 82, 83, somewhere around there.
Memory is good.
81, 82,
good. Yeah.
West Indies toured Australia. And I had a bad knee at that stage. Each game I played on that series, Dennis Waiter, our physio, had to strap me up like a mummy. Ice me before the game, ice me at the end of the game. So by the end of that series, I had to have a knee operation. They took out the lateral cartilage out of my left knee in Sydney. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Merv Cross, I'll never forget it. Excellent surgeon who did the surgery. And I wasn't absolutely sure I would be playing a lot of cricket after that because, you know, a fast bowler, you operate on your knee, you have to slam that knee into hard pitches every day. But it gradually was getting better, and I got the opportunity to go to Tassie and play 1 season down there. Jack Simmons from Lancashire, who I had met from before. You know, Jack is the one who organized for both Roland and myself to go down there because I think that was the first year, not think I know. It was the first year that Tasmania were going to be accepted into the Sheffield Shield as a team playing 4 points. They had played before, but they played as a subsidiary, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This was the first time they were being accepted into the competition as a team playing for points with a possibility of winning the competition if they were good enough. And they were allowed 2 overseas cricketers. And Jack Simmons got me and Roland Butcher to go down there and play that season for Tassie. That's the only season I played in the Sheffield Shield. And I played 1 season also in New Zealand. New Zealand were actually touring Australia that summer, that southern summer. And John Wright, who was with me at Derbyshire, approached me to go and play to help out his team, Canterbury. And, you know, with all the test cricketers in Australia for most of the season, got the opportunity. I said, okay, and I went down there and played 1 season down there as well.
All right, so question for you. This is now starting to touch on potentially a bit of controversy.
Yes.
Growing up, I've always heard of the massive positive effect of English county cricket on the development of the players, professionalism and otherwise. Yeah. And when that wasn't allowed, it was the start of the downward trend. Does it get too much credit, or do you believe that it played a big influence on the region in general?
No, I don't think it has gotten too much credit at all. I think a lot of the guys who went and played league cricket, because there were many before the guys who played county cricket, who played in the leagues. You know, George had never played county cricket. He played in the leagues. It's all about people in that era that played in the leagues and helped them to develop their game. The thing is, you know, Simon, if you're playing under conditions that you're not accustomed to, you have to learn. If you don't learn, you will never succeed. Playing in the leagues, playing in county cricket, that gets you to learn. And not just to learn about your technique, but also to learn about different cultures and how to behave when you go into different parts of the world. So playing cricket all over the world under different conditions will always help you to develop your game. County cricket helped a lot. It was basically the major first-class cricket outside of the Caribbean that was available to Caribbean people. We had a few who went to Australia. Gary Sobers, I think, went down there, played a couple of seasons for South Australia. Bill Richards went down there later in life. I went down there for a season. But all that helps. But county cricket being the easier option, because there's absolutely no cricket in the Caribbean between May and September. A lot of cricketers from the Caribbean went to the West, went to England and learned a lot playing county cricket. I wouldn't say county cricket was the strongest cricket I played in. It definitely wasn't. I think Sheffield Shield was the strongest because they only had 6 teams down there. And if you're dividing the talent that you have got in a country by only 6 teams, you're going to have some very strong teams. County cricket, you're dividing the talent into what, 15, 16 teams? It's not going to be as strong a competition. But you're playing under varying conditions, you're playing against some good cricketers, and you learn.
So would you also say that, and I'm not asking you to comment on the value of T20 cricket, would you also say that the franchise cricket around the world that has opened up opportunities for the West Indies players, not only the IPL, but the Bangladesh Premier League, etc., has it played a similar role to what English county cricket used to do?
No, I don't think it can. You see, as I mentioned earlier on, there was absolutely no cricket in the Caribbean those days.
Right.
Between April, end of April, early May, right through until the end of September. So no one was being taken away from cricket in the Caribbean to play in the county season. What is happening now with all these professional leagues all over the world? People are now missing your domestic season back home in the Caribbean. If you're not playing against the best, Simon, you're not going to improve at the rate at which you should. You may play against some reasonably good cricketers here or there, but in my time, every team had their best cricketers playing, so it was a lot easier for you to learn from people around you, in your team, in the opposition, and of course the competition was stronger, so you had to be very good to get to the top. The cream rose to the top. If you don't have the stronger teams playing, you get mediocrity rising to the top, and we have seen a lot of that. Don't want to call any names, but we have seen a lot of mediocre cricketers playing test cricket that should not be playing test cricket, and that's because of the fact that it is all thinning out, it's all watered down. So there's no way anyone can say that 2020, the different leagues around the world, is doing the same thing or can do the same thing that county cricket did. Forget even about the fact that you can't learn to bat or bowl properly in 2020, because the techniques that you use in that form of the game can't help you in test cricket. But forget about even that. Just look at the logistics of it all. It can't help.
The only thing I suppose people might come back and say is that the access to learning from some of these great players in the other teams and the coaches and that type of setup might be an advantage for some. But I understand definitely it goes both ways.
You know, it's an advantage for some, Simon, because if you look at the youngsters in India, when they go, these IPL teams, I don't follow 2020, but I know a lot about it because I have lots of friends who are big with the various teams around the world in 2020 leagues and all that. I was even having a long chat with Sunil Gavaskar the other day. You have a lot of IPL teams and you have a lot of people in the squads that you never ever hear of because they don't get close to being in the final 11. So people don't hear about them. But there are young Indian cricketers that just being around the big names, they can benefit from that. They can see how they train, they can see how they dedicate themselves to their sport, and they will learn a lot from that. They can watch technique of the established players and they learn from that. But a lot of those that are actually playing, they're not learning proper technique when they're actually playing the 2020 from a very tender age. They can develop, yes, absolutely no way about that. But the other aspect of it that I say detracts from a lot of cricket, not just West Indies, a lot of cricket around the world, is the absence of some of these guys from their domestic tournaments. Beg your pardon. Once you don't have the best playing in your domestic tournament, you'll not get very strong teams. Ultimately, it's going to get watered down, it's going to get diluted, and you'll get affected.
Have you never watched a T20 game?
No.
Or you watched bits and pieces?
Never watched a T20 game, Simon. I won't watch one. I'll tell you something as well. A few people know my wife's business is event management. My wife managed the Mumbai Indians for a few years. I have been to the IPL when it's been on, but I stay at the hotel. She goes to work, I'm at the hotel. When she comes back, I'm there waiting. So
that's very good self-discipline, Mikey.
For 4 or 5 years, he managed this stadium in Mumbai.
Very good self-discipline from you. All right, let's move on to the West Indies career. How many of those players in the dressing room that you met for the first time did you know and have a decent or good relationship with?
Well, when I went in the dressing room for the first time, everybody in the dressing room, I knew about them because, I played Shell Shield. We play against each other in the Shell Shield, so you know about these guys. And even the most senior person in the dressing room at the time, Lance Gibbs. I had met Lance Gibbs before, Jamaica versus Guyana, I remember going into the dressing room in Guyana, and he actually called me over to his part of the dressing room and said, "Youngster, come and sit here." And we had a good chat. So, you know all these guys. Some of them, you're intimidated by them because they are big names. You know, first time I played for the West Indies, I was 21 years old. Lance Gibbs was in his 30s. So, you know, these are big men to you. But at no stage, any of them, whether it was Lance Gibbs or Clive Lloyd or Roy Fredericks or Derek Murray or Van Burnholder, all these senior guys, Keith Boyce, none of them ever made you feel as if, oh, you're a youngster, you keep yourself in your corner, you know, that sort of a thing. You are welcome into the setup and you felt as if you're a part of it. Not that you constantly you're talking and volunteering in advice and that sort of thing, but you felt as if you're a part of it because they welcome you into the family.
All right, so that helps. That helps to make a youngster comfortable, so you can try to concentrate on the skills rather than off the field. The famous 4-prong, which was changed at some point in time. You had a member dropped out and a new member came in. Yeah. The thing that amazes me as a player and a youngster growing up, when looking back at the footage, how different all of you were and how well it seemed all of you worked together for the benefit of the team. How beneficial was it to have that kind of variety, even though all of you were right and over?
It was very, very beneficial to us as cricketers and of course the team. The original 4, if you look at the original 4, all different in height, all different in action, all different in methods. You know, it was Andy Roberts who was the leader of the pack. Joel Garner, 6'8". Andy he's still alive, so not say was. Andy's about 6.5 6'1" at the most. Joel Garner, 6'8". Colin Croft, 6'5", and I am about 3.5 if I try to be a little bit taller. And if you look at the actions, Andy Roberts was a little bit slingy at times. Joel Garner right up over the top, highest point would have been about 10 feet up in the air, the top tip of his fingers. Colin Croft right on the edge of the crease, drifting out to the edge of the return crease. Me, sometimes close to the stump, sometimes in the middle. And of course, we all had a fair amount of pace. So it made things difficult for the opposition batsmen. And we knew each other's game. We would talk to each other. We would watch each other when we were actually playing. We could detect little differences in each other's action, and on particular days if somebody wasn't doing things quite right, we could see and we could speak to each other and say, hey, it seems like you're drifting a little bit when you're leaning, that sort of a thing. So we complemented each other in our game, and also because of the fact that we knew each other and we knew each other's game.
Coaching setup then, I know you just mentioned that you knew each other's game and you helped each other in trying to correct and get better. Was there a coach at the time, and if yes, what did that coach do in that setup?
Simon, we had many coaches, but I can't remember the license numbers.
So you had a team manager, but no coach?
No, the only coaches we had was what we took from the ground to the hotel.
Okay. So you had to help each other to improve.
But there were senior guys around, you know, Clive Lloyd. When I first joined the team, the senior fast bowlers, Andy Roberts was there, but he wasn't the senior fast bowler as far as the experience is concerned. There was Van Burnholder and Keith Boyce. They were the senior guys. And then you had Bernard Julian, left arm swing bowler. As I said, I cannot remember at any stage ever thinking, I'm a little peepsqueak, don't go near to these guys. These guys are always very welcoming. And of course, when the 4-prong pace attack started, we were all pretty close to, as far as age is concerned. So we were going back a few years in our careers and coming through. And Roberts and myself, as a matter of fact, we were 12 men for our respective islands on the same day, Jamaica versus the Combined Islands. He was 12th man for the Combined Islands, I was 12th man for Jamaica, and that is where our friendship grew. We sat together on the same bench throughout that entire four-day game, talking to each other. And of course, Joel Garner, we met Joel pretty early because Joel was a very friendly guy. We go to Barbados, Joel not in the team, but Joel would come around and come to the hotel, have a chat. Colin Croft and myself played on a 19 cricket together. So, you know, we're going back many years, so we were familiar with each other. And the senior guys in the team The batsmen, for instance, Roy Fredericks, very friendly guy. So we had a good team spirit, we had a great camaraderie, and we didn't need outside coaches. These guys knew enough about the game, and they could help. We could help each other, and the senior guys were not afraid to come to us as juniors, because at no stage did they make us feel small or insignificant. So we were quite open to whatever they had to say.
You said each of you had quite a bit of pace. I think that's a little bit a downplay from you. What was it like as a fast bowler, batting in the nets against the other bowlers? Was that something that you look forward to?
Well, I'll tell you something. It was easier to bat in the nets against Andy Roberts, Joel Garner, Colin Croft than to bat against Viv Richards and Gordon Greenwich, because all they wanted to do was bounce the fast bowlers. They didn't want you to bowl bouncers at them in the nets.
Yeah.
But all they wanted to do, and they wanted a new ball. They would never come in and bowl old balls. They would run in with a new ball and they would try and pepper the fast bowlers. So that was all fun though, fun and frolic. We had no helmets in the early days, but by the time we got around to 1979, 81, everybody had a helmet. Viv didn't wear his, but he had one in his case. But it was good fun.
Looking back at the footage, I see Viv bowling. I see a couple of other slower bowlers bowling. Now, you pick the four best fast bowlers. You pick your four best bowlers, and it turned out you had four great fast bowlers and more. What if there was a world-class spinner? How do you think that might have changed your career and your role? Do you think it would have changed? Would have played?
Yeah, well, my first tour 75-76, Lance Gibbs was in the team. He played every test match, and we still had a lot of fast bowlers down there. We had Van Bernhola, Keith Boyce, Andy Roberts, myself, Bernard Julian, but Lance Gibbs played every game because he was a world-class spinner. Later on, we had a lot of spinners who did play at various times, and they were not world-class. You will look back at some of the scorecards, you'll see Roger Harper played, you see Derek Parry played, you see Ranjit Nanan played, you see Inshan Ali played. We had a lot of spinners that came in and played at various times. If we had a Shane Warne, he would play every game. And it would be up to the rest of the fast bowlers now to fight out who would be the other three to play with him. You know, we played all four fast bowlers because they were our best bowlers. We didn't just eliminate spin bowlers. If spin bowlers came along and they proved effective under certain conditions or in certain countries, they played.
Leadership. So, captaincy at any level can be challenging. Club cricket is probably as difficult as anything else. In that West Indies team, with all those greats, I'm sure there were some big characters, right? Without knowing them. How did Clive Lloyd manage the different characters in that team?
I don't think Clive Lloyd had a serious problem. The first tour, 75-76, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that tour was a complete disaster because Clive was young in his captaincy. He had some ideas that didn't quite work. But then as time went on, he learned a lot. He learned a lot about man management and about how to relate to different players and different personalities and that sort of thing. And Lloyd did an excellent job as far as I'm concerned. You know, people will say, oh, you know, he had a great team and all you need was somebody to pull the strings. It goes beyond that. And that's where this conversation started about captaincy, about man management and getting the best out of your players and making sure that everyone is pulling in the same direction. With all those big names that he captained, it could easily have gone off and fallen apart with everybody being bigger than the game. That never happened. And that was because Clive Lloyd respected everyone, gave everyone their space to some degree, but because he respected everyone, everyone respected him. People would run through a brick wall for Clive Lloyd when he was captain. And that is why we had such a successful team.
And the dressing room at the time, was it one where it was, well, there was no coach to take over proceeding. So was it Clive Lloyd's dressing room or was it the players' dressing room?
No, it was Clive Lloyd's dressing room. It was Clive Lloyd's team. I tell you something. Clive Lloyd had so much aura in the Caribbean when we started to win. And we know talking about after World Series cricket, because before World Series cricket, we had a couple of tours. We lost in Australia, we beat England. But after World Series cricket, when we started to win on a regular basis, whenever Clive Lloyd went to team meetings, he was the man. obviously everybody participated, but he was the one who led the team meeting. When he went to selection meetings in the Caribbean, you'd always have people, oh, the selectors would think, no, we want this man. In the end, Clive Lloyd pretty much got the team that he wanted. And that happens when people look up to you as a good leader and when you are being successful. So the dressing room, that was his. As I said, everybody could contribute. You could offer your opinions, whatever, but that dressing room was his.
Why were you so successful as a team for so long? A lot of times you see successful teams in any sport for a shorter space of time. There's a life cycle. Let's say there's a life cycle for coaches and everything else. Why for so long?
That is difficult to say. Apart from the talent that we had, a lot of that team were about the same age. We came through together, the Big Richards and Roberts, Gordon, Greenwich, those guys, after people like Lance Gibbs and Roy Fredericks and the senior guys left. The group that was left, the nucleus that was left, we were all pretty much the same age, perhaps 2 or 3 years difference. So we built and grew together. And once you have talent and you have that team spirit and you have a good leader, and we had Dennis Waite who kept us extremely fit, people shouldn't ever try to devalue or lessen what Dennis Waite did with that West Indies team. He played a huge part in keeping us fit and strong. And if you're keeping the guys on the field, you have a good group of talented guys, you have a good leader, you have a good team spirit, you're going to be successful over a good period of time. And I think that contributed a great deal to our success. Away from home, at home, we were successful and we just kept on building.
Do you think the dynamics might have changed if you played, not if you played now, but if the structure, the backroom staff, let's call them, the structure of the backroom staff that we have now, if that was then, what do you think would have happened?
Difficult to say, to be honest. I'm not too sure that we would have accepted it, to be honest. I don't think we would have wanted 7, 8, 9 people in our dressing room.
More than that, Mikey. It's more than that, I think, right now.
Talking about 12 of them now.
Yeah.
Maybe if you grow up under these circumstances, you deal with it. But I know the people that I played with in the 70s and the 80s, we wouldn't want these guys around. We take care of our game. We don't want all these people around, everybody whispering in your ear and telling you what to do. We took care of our game. We knew what we had to do to be successful. We knew each other's game. We helped each other. We wouldn't want 9, 10 people around us and everybody having their opinions. You see, when you have so many people around, Simon, they all think that they have to justify being there. So they all think they have to be getting involved and doing things and saying things. And we don't need that. So now you deal with it, but we wouldn't have dealt with it.
So your training sessions, if you didn't have that backroom staff, you had your captain, you had Dennis Waite, who was, his official title was a physio of the team, or what was his official title?
Dennis Waite was trainer first. When he joined us with World Series Cricket, Dennis Waite didn't know a lot about anything to do with people's muscles and your physiology and skeletal structure. Dennis didn't know what, Dennis was just a rugby player. A strong guy, not big, strong, powerful guy who was extremely fit, and he knew how to get people fit. Dennis went out and bought books about physiotherapy and about muscle structure and that sort of thing. And Dennis taught himself. He then became physiotherapist and a trainer. But Dennis initially was just a trainer. But he was so dedicated to wanting to do well for himself and the West Indies team, he went out and taught himself. And of course, if we had serious problems, there was always a doctor that you could confer with. But Dennis, he was all-encompassing where fitness and health was concerned.
So you had a trainer that turned into, I'm going to say, Superman, right, for that team. You had your captain who was respected and influential. Who set up your training sessions, and could you tell us what those training sessions looked like? What did it involve? The length of time, that sort of stuff.
Training sessions, we're talking about outside the nets now. Training sessions were organized by Dennis Waite. Dennis decided when you train, how long you train for, exactly what you did during training. And more times than not, it involved running and running long distances. And I'm not talking about like a jog around the track. I'm talking about running anywhere that we could find somewhere suitable to run, on a golf course, football field. I remember the fast bowlers, then it's taking the fast bowlers in Melbourne and running the stairs in the MCG, up and down Bay 13, where they always have these guys shouting out for more views. That big stand, up and down, concrete steps, but we were strong enough and fit enough anyway, but up and down those steps. But the team itself would run, as I said, wherever it was convenient. I remember us running in Pakistan once, and there was no, we were supposed to run on grass or in a field that we could run on, and we didn't like running at the cricket ground because just running in circles. And then they had us running through the towns, and people in Pakistan were looking at us, what are these madmen running through the towns? We trained very hard, and as I said, it mainly concerned running, but then at the end of the run, sometimes we would run, depending on how far in advance of the game, up to 45 minutes running, and proper running, not a little jog. And then we would start doing our stretching and exercising. And then it would have its different strengthening exercises and its different stretching exercises. And we would go through that entire regime. And sometimes at the end of that, we then went to the next. Sometimes we went back to the hotel. That was it for the day. But sometimes we went to the next, and sometimes the nets were voluntary. A few guys would go and bowl to some of the batsmen. But that's non-cricketing days. Cricketing days would go to the ground perhaps 2 hours ahead of time and do our stretching and warming up on the ground. And we'd have people that would come to the ground specifically to watch us stretch and exercise and warm up. And at the end, when we were actually walking off the field to go back to the dressing room, people would stand up and applaud because of what we had done. We had
All right, so in terms of you as a fast bowler and when you trained at in that period of West Indies cricket, not when you were 19, 20 trying to make your way. At what point in time did you, or I don't know if you did, I'm assuming that at some point in time you did, stop trying to improve your skills and just try to concentrate on getting your rhythm for a game?
No, I never ever stopped trying to improve my skills. That was something that I kept on practicing, kept on working on. Sometimes I'd go to the nets and I didn't even care who was batting in the nets. I went to the nets to work on a particular thing. And I would run in and try and bowl that particular ball or that particular style. And that was my practice.
So you've always had a purpose to your training?
Yeah, there has to be a purpose to your training. Sometimes the batsmen also ask you to do particular things when you're bowling to them. A batsman might ask you to you, Mikey, I want you to bowl half a dozen balls in my ribs. So I know you want to be able to just play those balls comfortably out of his ribs, or pitch them up outside my house. I want to practice to drive. And you're the fast bowler, you can't be talking about, oh, I don't want anybody to be driving me, looking in the net. No, it's a team effort, it's a team game. If the batsman wants you to bowl a particular way in the net, you go and bowl it. And I'm not saying they do it on a regular basis. You go in the nets and you do nets, you just run up and bowl or the batsman will bat. But some days you practice particular skills as a batsman and as a bowler. So you never ever think about, oh, I've learned enough. You know, you keep on working.
Who was the most resilient player that you think you played against? Toughest competitor, resilient, whichever word people, mentally strong is a word we like to use now, in your team, and who you played against, if you had to choose one.
Well, in my team, that was Viv Richards, and not because he's the best batsman in the team. Viv was mentally strong, very, very strong character, mentally strong in every respect. I remember Viv Richards, we were playing a final at MCG, one of the triangular tournament finals. It might have been the third game. We had won one, lost one, and this was the third now to decide the one-day finals. And Viv back was giving him immense problems. And they called this doctor to give him an injection. When I saw this doctor come in and take this needle, and you know, you press that to get a little bit of liquid out to make sure that it is full, the cylinder is full. I turned my back, I couldn't look at that needle. It was so big and so large. But Viv took that needle in his back to make sure he could play that game. A lot of people wouldn't have done that. Opposition, I'm going to pick somebody that is not, a lot of people, even in Australia, wouldn't consider him to be a great player, or even a top class player, but I know he was tough. Opening batsman, no doubt. Bruce Laird, we call him Stumpy. Great guy as well, good guy. Took blows left, right, and center, never gave an inch. I don't think Stumpy was more than 5'6", 5'7" at the most. But Stumpy never gave an inch. If you fell him, if he went down to the ground, once he was alive and he could get up, he was going to get up and he was going to keep on batting. So Bruce Laird opposition with Richards Mighty.
Okay. I'm going to go a little light-hearted now. I need maybe a bit of insight into that dressing room some more. If you played, if social media was around then, right? Who would post the most things on the internet?
Wow.
In that dressing room. Selfies, etc.
That's a tough one.
You're going to out some of your teammates now?
No. That's a tough one. I know Desi Haynes would probably do quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Desi was one of those free-spirited guys. He used to wear a gold chain with a pendant around his neck, and the 3 words on it were live, love, laugh. And that's how he lived his life. So that's how he still lives his life. So Desi would probably constantly on the social media, whether it's Twitter, WhatsApp, or whatever. And,
right. And who would Clive Lloyd have to take away the phone from because they're posting something that they shouldn't? Who would that person be?
Let me see.
Something controversial. Would that be you?
Perhaps Colin Croft. No, I wouldn't have done social media. I don't do social media now. So it wouldn't have been me. The only thing I do is WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is not, in my eyes, not really social media. If you are not in my contact list, you can't message me.
Fair enough. All right. I saw earlier this year, you picked the 4 fast bowlers across generations. I don't know if you remember that interview. And you named Malcolm Marshall, Andy Roberts, Dennis Lilly, and Dale Steyn. There's no Wasim Akram, no Ambi, no Alan Donald, loads of other greats. Why did you choose those 4? No Michael Holding. Why did you choose those 4?
Well, Dennis Lilly, I'll start with Dennis Lilly because he was the first one that made such a great impression on me. Because, you know, it's 21 years old, you see the great Dennis Lilly bowling in Australia. And also in his early career, you saw what he went through. Having serious back injuries, had to pretty much be in a cast for many, many months, came back from that back injury and became even a greater bowler. Not as fast, but more skillful. So there's no way I could leave Dennis Lilly out. Andy Roberts, because I learned so much from Andy. We grew up together, we roomed together in the early days, because when we were playing, until you became a very senior member of the team, you didn't get single room, you had to room with someone. So I roomed with Andy for quite a bit. Malcolm Marshall, I don't think that needs too much explanation. When you look at Malcolm Marshall and his career, he was undoubtedly a great fast bowler. Plus, when you go to South Africa, he spent a few summers down there, South African summers. When you talk to people like Sean Pollock and even Herschel Gibbs, when you talk to them and they tell you about Malcolm Marshall and what he taught them and what he did for them. Chris Cairns in New Zealand, same thing. I'll never forget when Malcolm died. And I saw Chris, don't remember how many months after, and Chris came up to me and was telling me what he had learned from Malcolm and how Malcolm had helped him. So you can't leave out those 3 gentlemen. And as I said, you can't name everyone. There are a lot of great fast bowlers that I've seen, that I played with and against, and I've commentated on. But in the modern era, Dale Steyn. Dale Steyn by some distance as well. The enthusiasm, the vigor, the energy, the skills. Nah, he's number 1 as far as I'm concerned of the modern era. And even you might even have to put him number 1 among some other people from many years ago. When you look at Dale Steyn's career until perhaps the last 2 years of his career, Simon, when he was struggling with that shoulder and all that, he was averaging 5 wickets per test. How many people do that?
Definitely somebody that has top skills: pace, bounce, aggression, ball movement in the air of the deck. Top fast bowler.
Brilliant.
Can you